So I'm Monty and this is
Bryan.
And we're here with Cardboard Arcade and we're doing the last of a series of unboxing videos. And we haven't unboxed this one yet because there's kind of this drool geek factor right now because this is a darn smexy looking ship.
And this is the only big box release for Wave 3.
And I think this was the highly most anticipated because people have been talking about it for a long time.
And no one expected it.
It was kind of
At first it seemed like a joke, but then people saw some of the stats and
what's that
life
later?
Was never the same.
Instant crits? No rolls? I think it'll come out that way. Alright.
So for all you munchkins, your transports are now your best attackers.
Ooh, okay, we've got a box within a box. So we're going to pass the box over here, and I'm going to pull this model out because, quite frankly, I want to stab the packaging any sooner, but okay.
I'd like to say before you get into that too much, and go ahead and pull it out of the plastic.
This is iconic. You don't want to touch it. It's still new. It's got that new Lambda smell. Ooh, vinyl.
All the big box releases in the past came with their own little rules booklet as well as a custom game scenario tailored for this ship to use some of its special lore or skills specifically. The Lambda is certainly not going to change that formula. So just to let you know, you've got more ways to play the game when you buy this ship.
Okay, so there's going to be a part of me that's a kid that wants to keep moving the wings the entire time I'm playing with it. But we've got the upright configuration. This one's actually kind of stiff.
That is a really snow type of white. That's not as gray as I remember it in the films at all.
Well, see, I think they started white and this one's just supposed to be dirty, and that's okay. But I really... You could do... Actually, the paint job on this is really nice because you've got details and dirt in the right spots.
Yeah, the ink job and getting into the crevices is really spot on. How low do those go?
Well, it's kind of tight and I don't want to bend it more. And that looks sexy as it is, but I don't think it's going to go any more than that.
Hold on, let's see the picture on the box. So, that's the angle that they advertise.
Well, I think that's the only bit, but I think that's as far as it's going to go right now. So we're at almost flat. And that's not a big range of motion as you would think, but looking at the design...
What was that? Oh shit, that just... I think that popped out the back hinge. Oh no, okay. I'm just getting...
I heard the snap, but maybe it has a bigger range of motion now. Well, I guess if I break it, it has a great range of motion, doesn't it? We have super glue.
So, careful kids when unboxing your own.
So, this looks pretty sexy and not so quite disappointing, but yeah, that's a lot of detail, wiring underneath, and I like that it looks worn. It's one of the things I hate about some sci-fi is it looks all so brand new that it doesn't seem like anybody ever used it. This is why the good Lord gave us the Battlestar Galactica remake. See, I thought Aliens was the first one that did it. When you get the Power Walker and just the mess that is, that's what messy should be. Where's the stand go? I want to set this one up. This is... It needs to sit here.
You do work while I talk about other things. So...
Work.
There's a whole mess of cards in this, but then again, the Lambda is supposed to be the support class ship for the Imperials. It's there to fill all the other roles that you were not able to do before. And I've personally seen some other talk about it, so without having to look at these, I know some of the specials, as I'm sure some of you might as well, so we're gonna get into this.
I just think it's one of those rumors on the internet. How do you stop at just one?
Well, and this could be a little pricey because, well, okay, at a base cost, we've got 21 points. And stats that I can't read due to camera angle.
Well, okay, we've got 3 attack, which is actually pretty high for it seems like this beast, but then again, we've got 1 dodge, which is, I think, one of the lowest I've seen on the Imperial side.
Yeah.
Or 1 defense, is that the appropriate term? I always get this confused.
1 evade, something like, oh, agility.
Agility, okay.
Yeah, that is the lowest. So this is definitely not as agile as Fire Spray.
No, this is looking like this. We have 5 shields and we have 5 hull, and that tells me we're getting closer, but not exactly to the Falcon level. We have lots and lots of hit points, and that's not something the Imperials have a lot of.
So definitely one of the spongiest units that they can bring to the table.
Okay, so Y-Wing on steroids.
And only has 2 actions by default.
Well, it's the focus and the target lock, and having looked at these online before, I think target lock and passing those around is going to be huge because most Imperials don't get target locks.
Right, so let's have a look at some of that in greater detail.
Do you want to finish these first, or do you want to go through and...
Yeah, let's finish these guys first. And so, there's only 1 rookie shuttle pilot. So all the rest are named with special abilities. What do we got here?
So this is Captain Your. Your captain, my captain.
Our captain.
The captain.
Your.
Captain. All right.
Who's on third?
Captain? Anyway. So,
you're on third. I'm not playing.
I don't know why we're thirding. When another friendly ship at range 1 to 2 giggles incessantly, would receive a stress token, and you have 2 or fewer stress tokens, you may remove that token instead. Ooh, that's going to absorb a lot of stress, especially for pilots like me that like to push the limit to the death.
That's not absorb, that's just outright remove. It doesn't say that the stress token goes to the Lambda, does it?
No, it says it may receive a token instead, so as long as he has 2 less stress tokens, he can keep taking them.
I heard you say remove the first time.
Oh, it's entirely possible.
Because that would have been amazing.
That would have been a little imba.
Okay, so we've got a stress sponge, which means your interceptors and some of your more key TIE fighter pilots can keep on target. It had to be done. Come on.
I'm not going to hit them for you, okay? You can pitch it, but I'm just going to let it slide.
One way or another, I'm getting to first base.
Is that gonna be
it's a baseball analogy.
So, speaking of baseball, we have Conal Jendon. Speaking of baseball? No, there's no tie in there at all. If you segue like that, people pretend to ignore it. So anyway, our next pilot is the Colonel. I can never say that one right. It looks wrong. It's like freaking lieutenant. Anyhow, Colonel Jendon. At the start of the combat phase, you may assign one of your blue target lock tokens to a friendly ship at range 1 if it does not have a blue target lock token. I'm excited about this one, honestly.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of people in forums and pretty much everyone on the internet have been raving about. Because with this guy, it's going to make your bombers far more efficient with their own orders. They don't have to get their own target locks to send their torpedo or missile payloads anymore. So long as they stick close to this guy, they're going to be able to get their focuses up and help maximize damage or evade some of the return fire.
See, I see this as an alpha strike, so if you have the one guy hanging back, he doesn't have a great maneuver to bow, you can have everybody fly past him one at a turn, and suddenly your first wave of the swarm all has target locks. It's going to be taking out quick ships fast. If they don't die right away, you're going to get big hits on the Falcon, big hits on your B-Wings. You're going to take key players out quickly.
Interesting thing to note, the stat line on every single shuttle is identical regardless of the pilot skill. They've all got 2 crew members, they've got 1 heavy blaster slot, whatever the official name is, cannon slot I think. And then they also have the, what is that, the sensors?
Again. Well, I don't think we have really a lot of elite pilot skills in this one here. So
right, so they're not going to be able to do any of the fancier stuff that the elite pilot skills could give. Although I'm sure on something that's going to make a heavy use of all sorts of actions, you would love push the limit on a shuttle.
You know, I am a big fan of that one, but I think that pushing the limit on a Winnebago might not be structurally sound.
It worked in Spaceballs, sort of.
So did the shorts, but you know, I don't see that working today.
Copyright infringement aside.
Hello, shorts.
Merchandising. And so, the top ace shuttle pilot. This is the bus driver that never let you down.
Lambda class, the movie. Lambda class, the lunchbox. Lambda class, the flamethrower. Kids love this. Anywho, so when an enemy ship acquires a target lock, it must lock onto your ship if able. This is our damage sponge. We're facing this in other functionalities, but not quite like this one, where you have to target this ship. But,
this is Biggs for the Imperials.
And that might take away a lot of the ability to get target locks. It seems like Alliance is the Rebels are really dependent upon, target locks.
Yeah, and plus every secondary weapon system, save for the advanced proton torpedoes, uses target lock.
This might actually make that one elite sail worthwhile. We use the focus instead of a target lock.
Yeah, so he's good for absorbing the basic payloads or at least redirecting them.
Yeah.
But advanced proton torpedoes are not going to be so dissuade because you don't have to lock it. You just...
No, you do have to spin it. You actually have to spin the lock to use the torpedoes.
No. You have to spin the focus. Weren't you paying attention? It's a completely different...
ball game. Okay, so for some of those missiles you have to spin the focus, but those ones are actually going to be useful against a Lambda now. And especially I think it was the gosh, what was it? It wasn't marksmanship or instinctive. There was some pilot skill that lets you use a focus in place of a target lock.
Oh, yeah.
And especially as we've seen in earlier videos, how the Hawk is actually so focus-centric, that might be the counter for this one.
Okay.
And the other option is, it's only got 10 hit points. This might just be the thing you knock out quickly. And for 27 points, it might keep your Swarm alive longer, but it's also an easy hit.
Right. Well, and with all the upgrades the shuttle's going to get, I assume that this could be a very huge point bloat.
Yeah.
Especially if you have little to no restraint. So, especially at the higher pilot skills, you could get to 40 points with this, which no Imperial is going to be familiar with.
I know we're not a high point team at all. I mean, especially with like even the dual fire spray builds, even those don't get that big ship.
Right, and for something that isn't as hardcore aggressive as the fire spray. Although I do really love how you can see a rear turret modeled in right above the rear engine, the engine there.
No, we don't have turrets on this. We have cannons, though.
True.
So I think this might be something you could plausibly put a heavy laser cannon on, but I don't see why you'd spend the points that way.
I know why it's there.
Okay, just because you played the games and whatnot. But
nope, just because I read the card.
Well, I haven't got to the cards yet. So those cards.
All right, so spoilers aside, let's debunk some spoilers. So
I'm gonna pass these out while you get through the
modification. Large ship only. It comes with 2 of these cards. Anti-pursuit lasers. After an enemy ship executes a maneuver that causes it to overlap your ship. So that means they're moving through, or presumably they get bumped and stopped right next to you. So long as any part of them would have been over your base, this triggers. You roll an attack die. On a hit or crit, the enemy ship suffers 1 damage. You put yourself in harm's way, hoping for everyone to bump into you and damage themselves. You are a flying asteroid.
What I'm going to see on that one, I want to tell this right now, is that a big anti-Falcon strategy has been using the low-level Rebel pilots, or Imperial
TIE fighters?
Yeah, the rookie pilots, and bumping into it, denying the ability to move. And that's going to change the game, because that will destroy the TIE fighters that do that. For 2 points, that changes your Han build in such a way that you're not so vulnerable to the Swarm anymore.
Yeah, there's no faction restriction on this card, so either side can use it. And the artwork, if you can see it, shows that rear turret on the Lambda in all of its glory. Okay, so now we understand some of the aesthetic choices and how they converted that into rules.
Well, on that note, that just reminds me, we've got this funny zero red move now, so that could be the nice thing where you just hit the brakes and let somebody crash into you.
You've already opened Pandora's box by announcing that. Let's go ahead and wonder where its dial picture is. Alright, this has been the really huge thing. No other ship to date has had a 0 stat line or a 0 maneuver line on their dial. So this guy can literally stop in place.
Well, I think that's twice the Rebels have gotten a move that nobody else has. And I think even the
Imperials?
Bomber had Rebels, Imperials, same space, to galaxy far away. But anyway, Wave 3 has had quite a few maneuvers that weren't in previous builds at all. We had the 5K turn on the Bomber. We had the 2K turn on the B-Wing. And now we've got this 0 stop motion on the Lambda. I don't think there was anything exciting on the Hawk, was there?
No, not really. It was pretty straightforward. So, overall, it's not going to go anywhere fast, but then again, it's a big base ship. In case you don't know already, this is the same distance as the 2 forward template. So
this is 8 centimeters. 1 centimeter is 1 forward, or 4 centimeters is 1 forward.
So even if he only goes forward 1, this is going to be a huge range for him, as most of you already know. So he doesn't have to go very fast.
Well, it makes me wonder, like, okay, if you're just spending points to spend points, what a engine upgrade would do to boost him around, because that little distance would go so far. It'd be entertaining, if not effective.
That's true, and so long as you can keep him out of like a cluster of asteroids, you can get away with that.
Well, it gives you some moving position, especially with the pursuit lasers to have people run into you.
All right, so let's take a look at more of the shinies that we've got here.
So, okay, I'm going to put this one up first because this is ship specific, and this is our ST-321, which is the designation of, I believe, the Emperor Shuttle.
You've got me. Your wild guess is as good as mine.
I'm going to go Emperor Shuttle on this one. I'm sure the YouTube comments will stack up and let me know that I'm wrong, but that's just a history. In the meantime, when you can acquire target locks, which happens for a lot of these ships, which he's going to pass around, you can do it anywhere on the entire board. And that, I think, is going to mean for me, I want to sit back at my 0 or at my 1, my green. I'm going to acquire target locks, and I'm going to pass them off as much as I want to. So by the time that first wave hits, they've all got target locks and they can make those 3 hits.
This is also irrefutable proof for all you people that have been playing the game wrong that you do need to be at range 3 or closer to achieve a target lock. Looking at you, Jay.
Irrefutable proof? I don't think there's such a thing. I've met people refute all kinds of proof. Heavy laser cannon, I think this is so amazing, but I think we've seen this before with the
fire spray.
Yeah, so now we're seeing it again. But this is just a way to do 4 damage at any range. So for the fire sprays, this is the way to sit back and actually do reliable damage. It's expensive. It really is expensive. But you can do some damage reliably.
The only problem is, unlike the fire spray, you only have your forward attack arc. So you're paying that high premium cost for something that does not crit, correct?
You must change all of your crit results to hit results, yeah.
So that would be a bit of an oddball upgrade on this, if you ask me.
I don't think this card goes with this ship, but I do think this goes with the gunner upgrade card, the actually the crew member card,
well,
so
we'll
I can take multiple shots.
Okay.
But that's a different set. That was wave 2, but
that's fair.
I think that's where this card will come into its own.
So if you want a more aggressive transport ship, you could throw a heavy laser cannon on it if you've got nothing better to do. What else do we have?
You know, I think the joke Winnebago is going to come out of this at some point, okay?
That's fair. So let's take a look at some of the special stuff. It's sensor suites.
With sensor suites, this is new for us. We have the advanced sensors. Immediately before you reveal your maneuver, you may perform 1 free action. If you use this ability, you must skip your perform action step during this round. So you get the action before your move instead of after your move.
Which is huge if you're planning on bumping into another ship.
Or being bumped into, as came in with the pursuit lasers.
It doesn't matter if people bump into you, you'd still get your action so long as you end and not in base contact. So if you've got a lower skill level pilot that's going to go first, and you're planning on blocking somebody's way, you still get to have your action, your focus to make sure that whatever evade dice you get count. That's pretty huge.
Now, there was also a card that came out with the Hawk, I think, that was an intelligence operative or something like that that lets you see other maneuver tokens first. So this might be the kind of card you use to find out if you need to take your action beforehand. Those two might come in handy together. Again, we're spending a whole lot of points on one ship at this point, but we're just theory crafting here. This is kind of fun.
Fair.
Sensor Jammer, you want to get that one?
Sure. You want to hold it up? Kind of like admin.
Okay.
So, Sensor Jammer. We've got a 4-point cost, and so when you're defending, you can change one of the attacker's hit results to a focus. The attacker cannot re-roll the die with the changed result.
I'm wondering why they used focus instead of just a blank.
Well, it's 4 points, and you're only changing 1. I have a feeling this is a way for you to balance out only having agility 1.
Well, I'm wondering, like, okay, so if you have a focus token, does that mean if they used a focus in their attack instead of a target lock, you can still re-roll? You can not re-rolling it, but changing the result? There's probably a rules lawyer in there somewhere.
No. Okay, because here's how the rules work. Attacker rolls dice. Attacker modifies dice. Defender rolls defense dice. So if that triggers after the attack has already been made, they can't convert the focus back into an attack. The focus token has already been used.
Interesting, okay.
However, that might require some clarification from Fantasy Flight.
Well, we just saw a whole bunch of that has a multiple focus token build where you can just spend them like dollar bills and make it rain. So that's going to be, yeah, I'm interested in what Fantasy Flight says on that one.
But if it works the way I think it does, then even if they chose focus as their action, you can still cancel out part of it.
Okay. It just seems to me like they would have intent of making it change to focus rather than blank or something else. Somewhere there has to be intent.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why they chose that, but we're just going to have to see when the FAQ gets updated.
Okay, so Scatterbrain Jane and Danny the Intern made this card, and we'll have to see what they say about that later.
And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different crew cards.
You know what? I'm feeling particularly random here at the moment, so being not where to start first, where do you feel like we're going to start? Okay. Ooh, weapons engineer. I do remember reading about this one. You may maintain 2 target locks, only 1 per ship. So when you acquire a target lock, you can add 2 target locks at the same time. Now, especially when we combine this with the ship that goes ahead and throws them around, which was this one, and we combine that with the ability to pick target locks out of anywhere with this ship, I think we can pick up an immense amount of target locks even before the first initial wave happens.
Right, so if you get that, that's 3 points plus another 3, so you would have a 32 cost ship just doing target locks without any other upgrades yet.
Well, now we're going to talking about the Empire doing a 3 ship build again. So I could see that signature fill in the way that I like him maxed out as 33 points, and then possibly a cheap fire spray.
Maybe. It would certainly be pretty crazy. But you definitely want to do that on ships that can make the most use out of the target lock. So, like a lot of people have been saying, this is your bomber escort.
Okay, and the bomber's got interesting things too, but now I've got 2 ships that seem very vulnerable, and I've done 2/3 of my ships on that.
Pretty much.
Okay, so...
What we got next? Navigator.
Ooh. So I've read about this online, and we'll talk about this in a second here, but the card says when you reveal a maneuver, when you reveal a maneuver, you may rotate your dial to another maneuver with the same bearing. So if I have a bank to the right, I can make it a 2 or 1, whatever I need to be, as long as I have a bank to the right. If I have a straight forward, I can make it a 1 through 4 if I need to be, whatever's available to me. But I can do this after I've revealed it, so I can change my moves depending on how things have changed at this point.
This would come into play, I think, really well once you start getting into the high cost, where he can make perfect use of that new information after most of the opponents have already moved.
Well, I think that the ability to find the information and use it might be separate ships. Like, there's a rumor going around of the Fetigator actually using this with Boba Fett's ability, which allows you to change directions of your turn.
Ha!
So now all of a sudden you have the ability with this and Boba Fett to pretty much decide your move after everybody else has moved. And I think that might be huge, because that totally changes the double blind scenario that I think this game works off of. And that could be a huge advantage if you play it appropriately. Pick a card, any card. Ooh. Stop singing now.
Oh, so it's Vader.
Yep. Alright. So, after you perform an attack against an enemy ship, you may suffer 2 damage to cause that ship to suffer 1 critical damage.
You don't want to use this often. I think this is going to be your finishing combo.
See, I think of it more as like a crippling moment, where you're going to go ahead and, like, you've got a problem with the Falcon, you've got a big ship there that you're having trouble with. Let me get a crit on him. Let me give him the ability to not make a red maneuver. Let me make him fight and be able to, you know, become a cripple.
Right. You want to make sure you do this after his shields are dropped, I believe.
Well, it seems like if he's suffering a critical damage, you can do it beforehand. He's suffering a critical, not going through shields. So you can have that first impact and say all of a sudden, you know, you've got serious problems and you've got this wounded gazelle that's out on the space field. And
so it's a good way to get the Chewie crew member out of the game, really.
Yeah. Now that wouldn't work on Chewie the pilot, but actually it might. That's another FFG moment we have to talk about.
Okay, but supposedly, as long as this is, you know, before you take a whole lot of damage, you suffer that too straight to your shields.
Yeah. Well, 2 damage, that's another question there. It might go... That's a rules technicality I don't know at the moment, but you might be right. I wonder how that plays out, but it seems like with something with so many hit points, that would be a really early game move, not a late game move.
I think the ruling would have to be the same one way or the other. Either both the 2 you suffer and the crit you deal are going to be...
either hull or shields or...
Yeah, but we'll have to see how that gets fine-tuned.
Okay.
All right, what else do we have here?
Okay, I'm excited about this. This just in, breaking news from Lambda assembly lines in the Empire space. If you have problems with Lambda Shuttle, it's not just you, it's the wings.
So, if you are moving the wings down and you hear what sounds like snapping, it's not. It's the gears inside are just fine. The problem is the underlip here of the wing it's sliding along, and it's actually lower. It's closer to the ship than it should be. So by the time you get about 3/4 of the way folded, it's already scraping against the bottom edge. That's what you hear moving against each other. It's just the friction, nothing to worry about. You can get it all the way down and have it looking in its full glory.
We here at Lambda Assemblies take no responsibility or liability for any breaking of Lambda wings.
Thank you. Also, looking at this in more detail, I have a theory. I think the paint job looks so white because of the cost savings. They made this in white plastic. They threw a quick black ink wash over it, did the black, did the gray coloring, and they were done with it. They didn't paint it up really nice, you know, and fancy like the Fire Spray or the Falcon.
Well, it seems like a Battlestar Galactica problem, where suddenly your smallest ship has the least amount of detailing, you use the most screen time.
I just think the paint job here wasn't a canonical reason, or whatever. It was purely a business decision.
You know, on that note, though, I still see this big old tail here, and all I can think is like, okay, World War II, you know, emblems on planes. That would be kind of interesting for custom jobs.
Nose pinups, pinup art.
But yeah, that'd be kind of actually fun. And you can do it in the Star Wars universe. I think there's customizable options there.
Okay.
We were left and we had 3 more. We're going to go ahead and pick these cards to talk about. And the first up is the Rebel Captive. Now this is going to be interesting, I think, because if I recall, essentially the first time anyone shoots at a plane that has the Rebel Captive, they gain a stress token. So in theory you get stressed out by shooting at one of your own. Now, not reading the card from this angle, I think that's going to be interesting because as this is a big target, not all ships can deal with stress tokens well. And especially if you have a B-wing where you need that red K-turn at 2 or those red maneuvers, you might not be able to do it with a stress token.
So not only is the Lambda really the ship that you have in your setup so that your other guys can be more order efficient, you're making the opponent less order efficient by having to do those green maneuvers and not being able to do those risky things back to back to back.
Now, it's only 1 per turn, so I think that's going to make the Lambda the ship that you either kill it all at once or not at all.
Well, it's the first shot per turn, which means if you're going to be engaging with your Luke or your Wedge to try and do some damage, all of a sudden, unless you want to leave the job for some of your rookies at the end of the combat phase, you now have one of your best guys stressed out.
That's a good point there. So we're going to hit the high value pilots more. That'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
It's cheap enough that you could take it for 3 points on a whim, and you've got 2 crew slots. What's there to lose?
We have, intelligence agents. Not to be confused with agents without intelligence. I have actually no recollection of this card at this point. So
lean forward.
Lean forward. At the start of the activation phase, choose 1 enemy ship at range 1 to 2. You may look at the ship's chosen maneuver. Oh, actually, we saw this before, didn't we? This was the one where we saw choosing their maneuver, seeing their maneuver, and we combined that with advanced sensors we were thinking about, which is this card here. And that was the idea that we can not only find out what a move was, okay, we can now do something about it. So you're kind of removing the double blindness that this game is built on, and that's really strategic choices.
Yep, that is the same crew upgrade that came with the Hawk. You are correct.
Okay, so that gives us 2 choices. We talked about the Fedigator being a way to do things afterwards, and we talked about this as being a way to change your maneuver in such a way that we can make those choices.
That's pretty awesome.
So definitely some intelligence on the Imperial side.
Okay, let's take a look at the last one.
This guy is the guy that has to sit through all of the rookie pilots, and if he survives, he has to be good. This is our flight instructor. So our flight instructor, when defending, you may re-roll 1 of your focus results. If the attacker's pilot skill value is 2 or lower, you may roll 1 of your blank results instead. So if you're fighting low-level pilots, this could be very, very interesting. But this isn't Imperial only. I consider this more of a Rebel thing. Because you usually have such a big swarm there, that's going to give you lots of choices to re-roll dice. So I could see that going on the Falcon, so when you're fighting the swarm that usually likes to take him down, when you've got a ton of these 12-point, TIE fighters coming after you, suddenly you have the ability to re-roll that 1 dice.
Right. And it's not Imperial only. Don't let the uniform fool you. So that would be rather interesting to see how it plays on the other side.
I'm kind of interested. I would want to put Chewie in there because Chewie gets rid of the crits anyway, and he'd be able to reroll things. That'd be a very, very durable Falcon. And the Falcon tends to take a lot of hits.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I don't know. I can't picture it too well right now. It seems... It's one of the weirder ones I think we've kind of come across.
Well, there's definitely a lot in this wave that's going to be depending on the craftiness of the person putting together the build and how it's played out. And I think that's neat because the first wave and the second wave seems like very, very straightforward. So the metagame evolves quickly and kind of stagnated. This one might evolve over several months or the next wave. So we could see the game evolving through next gen con and so forth. We might find uses for these cards even in 5th or 4th gen.
That's fair. Well, that's been it for the Lambda Shuttle. I know this has been a bit of a longer video, but dude, there's so much in this box. And it comes with some brand new tokens, the disabled ships. That's for use with the scenario that came in the Lambda box. And you could also make up your own scenarios and missions with it for, you know, whatever you can think of. So overall, there's a huge amount of value that comes with this ship. And for some of these upgrade cards alone, it's worth it. Even if you never put this on the table, which would be a stupid thing to do, you could still use a lot of this on the fire spray.
Well, I'm still thinking that this is going to be the thing people buy for all the individual cards, even if you never do it. Because it seems like there's so many options, and again, when the craftiness builds up, we're going to see different tricks that come out of these cards.
Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot of games to really figure out what works well with what.
And just doing quick math, I mean, I could definitely see that you could put 4 of these on the table, couldn't you?
Oh, God.
So, for people that want to just mess up the metagame, just the fleet of 4 Lambdas, okay? The flight of the Valkyries, the giant geese of Pew Pew. Hey, that would be 40 hit points on the board, okay?
My name's Brian. Thank you for watching.
This has been Monty for Cardboard Arcade. Go ahead and check out the other videos that should be on the side over there. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you want to see our other channels. And thank you for watching and all the patience here. Meanwhile, Brian will suffer.
Good night.
Dun, dun, dun.